Hey, it's Eric G. Around the House is sponsored by Baldwin Hardware. For 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been known for its first-class quality and craftsmanship in door and cabinetry hardware. As an alumnus of the Baldwin Hardware Design Council, I can say I have seen the details and quality from design to the finished product. If you're looking for a new style and old-world craftsmanship, I can tell you there is only one Baldwin Hardware. Check out what would look great in your home at baldwinhardware.com.
It's Around the House.
Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. We have a great show ahead. These are my favorite episodes and segments from 2022, and I've saved some of the best for last. We've started out here with Kayleen McCable, talking about construction and the trades, architect, and my personal friend, David Applebaum, architect of the stars. Then we've got Growing Like a Pro with Joe Gardner, and we dive into a masterclass with my friend Dr. Dex. We have so much here for the last episode of 2022 that you don't want to miss. And to find out more information, head over to Around the House Online. And if you grab the podcast, I will have the full episodes in each one of these show notes, so you can take a listen to the whole one if one of these catches your eye. Now, let's get back to my favorite episodes of 2022. Let's get this show going. Let's do this.
When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to Around the House with Eric G. and Caroline B. This is where we talk home improvement every week. Thanks for joining us. Caroline and I have a special guest, my sister from another mister,
her.
Kayleen McCable.
And she's so high energy and she's just amazing. Her vibe is like, I need her vibe right now.
Hey, I will share my vibe. I'm so happy to share my afternoon with you all. This is awesome. I get to hang out for a little while.
And by the way, Kayleen makes the best lunch boxes.
Oh, hey, thanks. I actually just put them all away. Nuts.
It's okay.
Well, I'd like to show them because I teach little kids now, so it's fun to show. Look, you can take cardboard and popsicle sticks and make this fun stuff. And I have one designed right now, and it's halfway in the process. It's going to be a little piano lounge. It sounds ridiculous, I know. But,
nice.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the piano. Weird sentences to say in the afternoon.
Well, I always see her running around, and it's never a clutch purse. It's always like a 1966
oh gosh,
Milwaukee Sander metal box or something. You know what I mean? I'm just making up brand names, but yeah, it's always something.
No, it's one of those. I also have my opera clutch, I call it. So when I go to fancy events, I have a 1923 ferret set from Snap-on that's rusty and gross, but you open the inside and it's black velvet and diamonds because I'm fancy.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
It's fun.
It is awesome.
Working in construction, if I were to show up to something with a Coach bag, I'd look ridiculous. But if I roll up with a old Rockwell metal case, that people are like, oh, all right. And weirdly, one time my truck was broken into and they stole all the new tools except for my old purse because it looked like a beat up box. And they were like, what's in there? Well, little did they know, keys of the kingdom. My passport was in there, my wallet, but they assumed that it wasn't something nice because it was so ugly. So bonus.
Well, everybody out there listening, if you don't know who Kayleen is, she has been all over the place. She was on DIY Network for it seemed like forever with Rescue Renovation. Yes. And then, man, you have just been champion of the trades. You've got your foundation. I don't know where you got the time.
Well, it's my passion. I really am so passionate about changing the mindset of what it means to be successful. There are multiple pathways. I don't have any college education. And for a long time, I was terrified to have people find that out. But I'm passionate about sharing it and getting people employed. It's a great career. It makes me so happy. And really, if I don't make sawdust every few days, I'm depressed. I'm like, what am I doing with my life?
Speaking of that, you were actually down at World of Concrete here recently, and I couldn't go because I've been getting ready for the show in Orlando, and Kayleen and I have a similar love for Orlando, but I'm heading down there anyway. Long story short, how was World of Concrete?
Okay, Carolyn, you haven't been yet, correct?
Never. So you need to share. You need to share and tell us all about it because I know nothing.
Okay, first of all, it's the largest, one of the largest conferences in the world. And it's all about concrete and masonry. And it sounds kind of basic, but the reality is it's amazing. Oh, it's so good. It's in Vegas, and Vegas has a huge convention center. And I haven't been back in a while. And since COVID and all that shut down, two things. Holy moly, they built a whole new concourse. So there is not only the central, the north, the south, there's now the west, and it's huge. But also, and I'm just saying,
they blew up a hotel for that.
Yeah, it's insanity. And so now you can also see the new Concorde, the Hilton there. I rode the tram, and the world's largest man-made sphere is being built there. And it's this huge black sphere, and it's going to be an acoustical center. It's so cool. So anyways, Vegas in general is just cool because of the construction that has happened in such a quick amount of time. And Vegas always pushes the industry too, as far as like what we'll see in residential construction. Like they were the first to like put a light on in the closet when you opened it. And then, 2 years later, you see it in homes. Okay. So anyway, so the world of concrete. I go because there's a competition, but before I get there, there's just cool products everywhere. It's cutting edge and it's super fun. There's the one, there was a saw blade that's like 6 feet in diameter. I don't know why, but I need it. I just think it'd make a really good backdrop. I'm just saying. There was an obstacle course they had for like dump trucks and big machinery, which is awesome. And these people were doing this, like backing up into like little tiny, like basically driving a semi-obstacle course and like going over things. That was awesome. And I regret not having my CDL so much because I wanted to compete so bad. Like,
See, I used to have mine. Fun fact, I used to have my Class A and tanker.
See, I'm
really.
See,
I learned something too, Kayleen. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm really envious because one, the employment opportunities, but two, I really want an air horn. I know, like, I have a tiny compressor for my truck, but in reality, I really want to go all the time. Okay, so
you know what we've done before? Side note on that. We had grabbed from a buddy a Burlington Northern air horn from one of the trains and put it on there. The problem was it's like 160 decibels. And so when you hit it, you're breaking windows out in cars around you. I mean, people jump like there's no tomorrow. We had it in my buddy's truck for a while. It was just blowing their mind. It was just crazy. But there's a few times in life that I went, oh, that was too much. That was one of those that I was like, okay, too much.
Right. You got to scale it back a little bit. I don't know. I'm still kind of jealous. Okay. Back to nerding out about World of Concrete.
Yeah.
So
World of Concrete.
That was fun. In the same lot, they also had a house being 3D printed out of concrete. So that was incredible to see live and in action. And what was so fascinating about it was there was like a channel left open for all your MEPs. They had it slowed down because like they don't want to take down an 8-foot wall in 2 days, but it can run.
It's all going to get hauled off.
Yeah, you have to do something with it. So it can run like 40 inches per minute, which is insanity. It also smooths the outside so you don't get that like, I don't know, just watching the technology was cool and learning that they are going to be teaching how to make 3D printed homes from a class in Arizona. So now I can't wait to go visit that school. Like, what? You can get a degree in this? Like, amazing. So that was cool. But the piece de resistance, the reason that I go to World of Concrete and why it's like the coolest thing on earth is they have a bunch of competitions. And it starts off the day with like the journeyman doing like a brick or a decorative design and then maybe apprentices. And then it ramps up to the fastest trowel, which is how many CMU blocks can be put down in 20 minutes? And these guys are doing a 30-foot run in 20 minutes. And some of them had like 7 or 8 courses up in 20 minutes. Ugh. And it's plumb and level and pretty. And then they have something called the toughest tinder. At the first time I went and not being familiar with masonry, like I'm a carpenter, so I was like, tinder, what, swipe right? Like, I don't get it. So Tinder, a Tinder is the assistant and the partner to a mason. So the mason handles the block, the Tinder is prepping the block and the mud. And so it's this beautiful like dance that they have. It's a really strong team, but there's a lot of prep work to it. So they have a competition for that. leading up to the final competition of the day, which is the Spec Mix 500. Spec Mix Bricklayer. Here, I'll even do this. I got on a hat. Spec Mix Bricklayer 500. I was such a fan. Like, I want all the hats.
Nice.
Yep.
So,
Oh my God, I love that. Oh my God, I love it.
So anyway,
Around the House, we'll be right back with my friend David Applebaum up next when Around the House returns.
What's up? This is Stick Hand Satchel from Steel Panther, and you are listening to
Around the House with Eric G.
Yeah.
We love Eric G, and you should too.
When I'm down, I make a call.
Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Now let's get back to our discussion with David Applebaum and our favorite segments of 2022. Welcome to Around the House with Eric G and Caroline B, a new kind of home improvement every single weekend. Thanks for joining us, Caroline. We've got a close and dear friend in the house
We got
today.
the best architect, the best. I think he's like one of the funniest guests we have. So when he comes on, I always laugh because he's just so comical and just so easy. It's in his blood.
Oh. And you see him on our social media. He's around everywhere. David Applebaum.
Architect to the stars.
Architect to the stars.
Woo!
Welcome back.
Hey, how you doing, y'all? You know, I don't know if I can continue after all of those platitudes. Gee. I don't know if any of them are accurate, especially me being easy.
So funny.
Well, this is a family show, and we're not going to get into that today.
Thank you. Phew. Oh.
Well, I wanted to bring you on. Caroline and I were talking about this because, you know, I've seen on social media here over the holidays and up through January and into February now, how many people out there are starting a house remodel or a new construction house, and they've pulled up internet plans, and all of a sudden they're on the interweb out there in a social media group talking about redesigning this house via the social media platform. And I'm going, this is already such a bad way to start. I call those people dreamers many times because I know that there's no way that's going to get off the ground from that angle. But I wanted to talk about it, you know?
It might get off the ground. It just might hit the ground really soon, too.
Yeah. You know, let's dive into this. If you're thinking about doing a major remodel or an addition or something like that, or even starting to build a new house, I wanted to get your recommendations, David. Where do you start?
Oh, that is such a loaded question. And it's funny because not even major. I've got a friend who lives in San Diego who said, I want to open up my kitchen and my living room and my dining room, and I'm not sure if I even can. And so he came to me, and I put him in touch with the right kind of people. He didn't need very much of me. I have to say, it's a really multifaceted question with even more multi-layered answers. And I would start off with, what is it that you want? And from there, go into a couple of different directions. I have said to you before, if you're throwing, let me start by saying, I hear a lot of people say, what do I need an architect for? I've lived in houses all of my life. I know what I like. I've got good taste. Well, you don't go to a wedding reception and say, you know what? I've cooked before and I know what I like when I eat. So I'm going to cook all of the food for the wedding reception, when everybody knows the smartest idea is to hire a caterer.
Exactly.
And then you decide.
No. I was going to say, I think people get scared when they hear the word architect because they think it's just automatically a big ticket item. And that's just I may be wrong with that.
And it can be. No, here's the other side of it. Okay. Which is, what are you getting out of it? One of my prized employees who now is on his own, there was a new regulation in Los Angeles. And so I called him because I saw him applying for the low intensity development permit, and I was about to do my first. And I said, hey, what's going on with this? can you give me a couple of pointers? Because sometimes we don't know everything either. He said, it'd be easier if I show you the drawings, but before I do, I want you to promise you won't give me any judgment, because this was a client that only paid me $7,000 to do the architecture. So they got a box. And I made it really clear, for $7,000, you're only getting a box. He said, I know you. Even if you got a $7,000 commission, you would keep on designing it, redesigning it until it was perfect. I'm not willing to do that. So the point is, you can specify with your architect how much you want and how much you're willing to spend. It doesn't have to be expensive. As a whole, I'm a full service architect. You hire me, I'm there from evaluation of your program, taking a close look at the codes. I'm doing a project right now that the client was smart enough to say, I had an architect that said he would do it for $5,000. Here's the drawing. Something seems wrong about it. And I looked at it and I said, okay, in your neighborhood, there's an area restriction, and he is 3 times the area that you're allowed to have. Okay. There's a height restriction, and he's over the height restriction. You would have spent that small amount of architecture and you would have never gotten it built. Mm-hmm. And if you would have gotten built, it would have cost you $100,000 in variances.
Sheesh.
So I tell all of my clients, I guarantee you that when you hire me, I will save you as much money as my fee, if not more, by knowing how to do the right thing. And I didn't finish, full service goes all the way through watching the construction process, observing it, reporting into the client the things that are going right and are going wrong, and making sure that the contractor charges the right amount. A client is not supposed to pay the contractor until the architect looks at the fees and say, wait a minute, you didn't put this in, or you didn't put it in right, or you have to put it in this way before I'll approve you getting a chance to get paid for it.
There's a lot of, as a designer, I've seen this a lot out there, David, and you're dead on right. I've seen there's multiple different ways that I see contractors doing new construction house bids. They will go on to that. They will bid the house project or the remodel or whatever else. And I will see where everything's itemized. You can see that they have materials that are on par with that level of construction. And I'm like, okay, budgets are great. And then there's that handful of them out there that love to do that add-on change order where they're the changeover kings and queens.
And not just one.
No.
And not just one change order. If a change order is about $4,000 or even $2,000, okay, which might not seem like a lot in a $200,000 house, you do 10 of those and you've added 10% to the price. That's the reason why when the architect is involved and you're bidding the project, the architect has a responsibility to look into what the contractor is like, because there's several contractors that I know, if I've got 3 bids, this guy's going to always be 10% lower than everybody else because he knows he's getting in on that low price. Mm-hmm. And then he's going to change order the heck out of that project until it becomes more expensive than the most expensive contractor who had all of that figured out and isn't going to charge a penny extra.
So question, do you go with the contractor that your architect would recommend, or do you go with your own contractor?
Around the House will be right back with Joe Gardner just as soon as we return. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, this is Ron Keel, the Metal Cowboy from Keel, the Ron Keel Band and Steeler. We are rocking Around the House with Eric G.
Raise your fist! Happy New Year's, everybody. Well, let's get into our next segment here. One of my favorites of the year with Joe Gardner. He is one of the top if not the top gardener out there on social media. Let's get back to the show.
Caroline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
This is going to be a lot of fun today. We have got a legend in the studio. If you're a podcaster, you've probably caught the Joe Gardner show out there. If you love television, maybe you caught him on Growing a Greener World. Joe Gardner, Joe Lample, welcome to Around the House.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. I love it. I love being here. I appreciate the invitation, and I am ready to talk gardening or whatever else you want to talk about. I'm ready.
We love it.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent. Well, we're in the middle of July right now. We're in July. It's kind of starting to get to that time of the year where it's not like you're starting gardens right now. Typically you're maintaining, and this is the time where people go out on vacations. And
yeah,
what are some of the seasonal things you're seeing right now in gardening in, kind of this mid to late July time of year?
Eric, one of the things that I've noticed this year here where I am in Atlanta, Georgia, but our audience, our students, they're all over the country and beyond, but we have office hours every week with some of our students, and we get a sense and a pulse of, what they're going through right now. We're all talking about the weather and the heat and either the lack of rain or the excessive rain, but all blended in there is the heat. And so no 2 years, the bottom line conclusion that we had, just a call today was no 2 years are the same. And this year is unlike any other in the heat. And so it's kind of like triage or survival mode more than anything else right now. As we come into mid-July, it's crazy with the heat, just trying to keep the plants alive. And it's not like, and because this year is so unique, it's not like we've just got a lot of experience with this excessive heat and what to do about it. And, there's nothing we can do about the weather anyway. We can't change it. So we just got to try to figure out how to get our plants and our tomatoes and our stuff that we're waiting for it to ripen to the point that we can get it before Mother Nature takes it down.
Man, we fought that. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm up here in Portland, Oregon. Last year we had that. I mean, it was late June. We had one day, it was 116 degrees. It just, baked everything. My rhododendrons looked like I'd put them in an oven. Nothing was happy up here. And this year's the exact opposite. You guys have the heat. We have had record rains all the way up through June. We still have probably had just a handful of 90-degree days, haven't gotten up into the hundreds like we did last year in June. And it's a cool year for us. So it's crazy how across the country, Caroline will be sitting there dying over there in Jersey, and I'm out here going, I got my heater on.
Oh, our Jersey tomatoes are frying up right now. We've got 90 degrees and it's like 100% relative humidity every day. And I tried to tell Eric, Joe, you need to tell him that we are a garden state in New Jersey, though he doesn't even believe me. He thinks we're not. But we do have some luscious stuff going on here.
Yeah, you can't beat the Jersey tomatoes. I will say that. We've been up there filming a few episodes, and oh my gosh, you get the Garden State name. Honestly, it's you deserve it. It's some good stuff up there. But right now it's like walking out into an oven is what it's like for a lot of us. And it sounds like that's the way it is for you, Caroline.
I did some blueberry picking last week, and Eric made fun of me because I came back into the studio and my mouth was like so purple and my teeth for days. And I'm saying, why is it? So maybe you can explain this, Joe. Why is a blueberry, you eat it in the grocery store, it does not turn your mouth blue, but you go out blueberry picking in this like luscious, organic, like farm of all blueberries, and my teeth were so blue? Is it the nutrients? Is it what's going on?
That's a really good question. But, why is a lot of the stuff we get in the grocery store represented as what we, like a tomato? Let me just turn the tables on you just a little bit. And maybe there's a relation to the blueberry story here too. But the way that I think about it all the time, and the big thing that got me was I was reading a book, and the author of the book was following this flatbed, this semi truck that, was open topped. And he saw all these green orbs in the back of it. And it's like, he's like following it down. He's in Florida. He's following it for miles. He says, what are those green balls? And then finally one fell out of the truck and it rolled down the road. And he followed the rolling thing down the road. And when it stopped, he pulled over and got out and looked at it. And finally he picked it up and he realized it was a tomato. So this truckload of these round, like cue balls, only green cue balls, were tomatoes destined for grocery stores all over the country. And as it turns out, From that, he wrote a book called Tomatoland, and he did investigative reporting on the tomato industry, because the majority of the tomatoes that we buy across the country off season are come out of Florida. But here's the thing that I'm getting to, and that is the quality control specs on those tomatoes includes uniformity of size and travelability, the shippability and the durability and all that. But there's not one item on that checklist about flavor. And so you get them to the grocery store, they're green, they're hard as a rock, you gas them with nitric oxide, and eventually they turn red. But they don't have any flavor, and the color is kind of induced. It's not brought on naturally. And so anyway, all that to say, that's why you get a flavorless tomato, off season in the grocery store, and maybe why the blueberries that look blue in the grocery store maybe they're not really blue. Maybe that's an artificial thing.
Well, it's true. I mean, I've been around. I grew up in Eastern Washington, so we had a lot of food processing plants, and you start looking at a lot of the stuff coming in, depending on what they're doing. But it's like there's waxes and polishes and all these things that are going on, things like apples and all that stuff out there that is not on your tree or plant out in the backyard.
Yeah. And there's the dirty dozen too. So there's that list of 12 crops that are so sprayed with every kind of pesticide and chemical possible to keep it alive and pest free and get it to the grocery store, that by the time you get it, I mean, you better wash the heck out of it.
What's the worst?
Before you consume it.
What's the worst, Joe? Like, I always thought the apple was the worst, but
I think strawberries are the worst, if I recall. I was afraid you were going to ask me what's on that list, but I think strawberries are really bad. Peaches are really bad.
Those soft ones where they don't have a layer out there to really
the sweet, soft, juicy ones are the really bad ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had a recall on strawberries recently, right? So we're seeing, and maybe this is a question for you, we're seeing a lot of salmonella outbreak. We're seeing a lot of this listeria stuff happening. Is that a product of gardening? Is it a product of not cleaning the vegetables, bringing them in, and then them being contaminated? I mean, is there any truth to any of that?
Well, I think the root cause of that oftentimes is in the irrigation in the fields and where that water's coming from. And, that bacteria, those pathogens can find their way into the water supply and onto the plants. And there's also pathogens that live in the soil that can be dangerous as well. And the water can cause them to get up onto the foliage and into the fruit, or up through the roots into the plant, and therefore transferred into what we eat. And so, try as they might, they do everything they can to try to avoid that, but sometimes it's just beyond their control. And it's unfortunate, but we find out the hard way when somebody gets sick, and then they have to just trash everything that they, was in that supply chain.
Gardener's
Caroline,
life, right?
I've seen this when I grew up. We had a bunch of those federal hydroelectric projects where they put the irrigation out across, in our states out here, and they're basically just big, wide open trenches filled with pumped in water out of a river or a lake.
Yeah.
The problem is the water, when it starts out, is really cool, clean water. But by the time it goes past the feedlot with the cows in it and through the apple orchards and the corn and everything else, and there's planes spraying, by the time it comes out at the other end, which could be 10 or 15 miles later, it looks like brown, green sewage water coming out there. And that's just because of all the stuff it's caught along the way.
No question about it. And just the fecal matter from the wildlife that may find its way into the watersheds or the aquifer that merges with the water that was used to irrigate the crops. And that's my point. I mean, you never know where it's ultimately coming from or how it got there, but it does. And there's so many pathways for that to happen.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we'd always have you had two water systems in the house that we had. You had the irrigation water and that. And, you're 10 or 12 and you're getting a drink out of the hose, and my mom's running out there going, no, don't drink that. It's water, Thanks, Joe Gardner. Now, next up, we've got Dr. Dex just as soon as Around the House returns. Welcome back to Around the House and Happy New Year. Now let's get over to Jason, Dr. Dex, in this last episode for Around the House in 2022. Now let's get back to the show. there is no way to fake that level of quality. It's either slides or it doesn't.
I don't. Yeah, I've gone to like 50 feet. I've thrown those things up to 50 feet on a slide. And yeah, you don't always get it right on the first one, but you know, for me, it's a thing. So I have to do it on every job now, every time I have the opportunity, you know,
dude. And that's the beauty of that that's care of the construction. And for the people out there listening, a 2x12 is not consistent with the one next to it. It's kind of close, but you can be off on those dimensions.
Oh, big time.
And you have to go in and set each and every one of those things to make it work. And it's either right or it's not.
Yeah. You need to grade your framing before you install it to thickness so that you know that you're not going to have a roller coaster surface when you're done.
And that's one thing with the composites is they're flexible enough that you can start to see that in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Lay down on your deck and look at it and you're like, ooh. I mean, we take precaution and care. And every time I come up a ladder or a staircase and I look at the deck and I can still see a hump here or a dip there, you know, we just minimize it. We don't eliminate it unless we get into aluminum framing. Like you asked me a question earlier, what do I see coming in the future? It's alternate metals framing, but I kind of skipped the steel train and I'm waiting for the aluminums to come. Yep. I think aluminum framing is going to be one of the biggest booms in our industry, and it's going to take another 5 to 10 years for it to really start to roll out. And that's where I'm going. That's where I'm putting my efforts and trying to pick a brand or a couple brands that I'd like to use because it will give you a laser flat deck. As a matter of fact, I just installed one with a company called Outdoor. Mm-hmm. Where the gentleman that owns the company in Australia flew over here. He stayed with me in my house and he shipped over a complete deck section for this above like a pedestal system deck that we had to do. And we planned it out like months in advance. And he finally came over here in April and we actually installed it together. And it was a lot of work because there was many challenges that he didn't realize when, you know, you can only do so much over a Skype, you know?
Correct.
But it was pretty amazing when it was done and it turned out really nice.
Well, you think about that. If you're putting down a deck product that's got a long warranty, you've got aluminum in there that's very consistent and is virtually weatherproof.
Yep. 100%.
That's a solid system right there. You can put a deck on it and get decades out of that without having to worry about. And for you, you're not having to put all the wrap on it. You're not having to do all the waterproofing on the deck board, on the joists and stuff. So it's probably going to go quicker in the long run.
Well, he had an interlocking clip system too that we were able to use. So it locked all the boards down, and then we only had to fasten it like every 5 boards.
That's crazy.
It was cool, and it doesn't move.
No, it's not going to.
No,
there's no spring.
And then there's
in
also
that thing.
Cortex Driller. Fastenmaster actually makes a Cortex fastener that can go into the aluminum, and you can Cortex it, and it locks it down, man. So we pinned all the ends on that deck, so it wouldn't move around. Yeah,
dude,
cool.
That is awesome. Okay,
yeah,
you got me looking at that now. That's cool stuff, and I think you're right, and. You're not going to see the challenges we see with lumber prices and availability, and you know, aluminum's aluminum. They can knock that stuff out.
Yeah. I think mostly like what this guy his issue is where to import it from, where to import it to, and then how to get it to the States and warehousing and all that. But
you're like Port of Tacoma.
Exactly. We talked about it, but he's a busy guy. You know, he's got a $30 million company right now, and he's trying to grow that to 100, and he's going to do it with this product. I can tell you right now, it's pretty. He's actually developing a framing system for us in the States because we're so into our nominal dimensional 2x8, but we can use a 2x8 and span it 14 feet. You know, instead of 8 feet or 9 feet.
Hadn't thought of that. Yeah, you get totally different spans out of this.
And it's flat.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's cool.
You can build thin with it. Their system, they have all these varying widths. So you can build a 2.5 inch thick deck.
how tricky in a contemporary house. Could you imagine doing that where it's just
laser thin?
That would be laser thin.
Like for those those flat rooftop areas that people have rubber or whatever
membranes and stuff on them,
top mop on them, whatever. Yeah, this is a cool. That's why we had to use his system, because I couldn't do a traditional. If I would have done a wood frame, it'd probably already be falling apart by now.
Yeah.
So
good call. Good call.
Yeah, man. So
that is cool stuff. You heard it here first, guys. That's the trend from Dr. Dex.
That's my trend. See, when you cut with steel, every cut you make has to be protected. If you let the shavings go down onto your nice patio or cement, it's going to rust. Okay, so you got to cut off site almost or somewhere contained, and then you
blow that off, and because you can't have any of those
right. Aluminum. I mean, it might be silver specks, but it's not going to rust.
Yeah.
And then pergolas, TimberTech just acquired Structure, which is an aluminum louvered roof.
Yeah.
So I think louvered roofs and patio covers are going to be another hot item coming up and coming for the future.
I didn't see that those guys had grabbed them. That's awesome, because I've looked into that stuff. It's cool. I got a buddy, one of my really good friends that lives down the street. We've been kind of looking at that for he wants to do a covered area over his deck, because out in his backyard is full sun and he just bakes out there. And so we were wanting to make a kind of outdoor kitchen area for him that was going to be out in the middle of his yard, and it would look.
That's the only thing. They're not cheap. It's a premium investment. I can do a standard acrylic and aluminum patio cover for half the cost of a Structure.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I end up doing, because people don't want to spend the extra money unless they really want that pergola.
Yeah. But they are sexy cool.
I think outdoor kitchens and just space, like covered space that you can hang out under. But most people don't realize what they're spending. When I go on these estimates, people don't realize how expensive that's going to be. You want a 20 by 20 enclosed or covered area with a deck. You're spending $100,000+, and people don't realize. They're thinking it's $20,000, and you're
not buying the materials for
half more than that.
Yeah, materials are twice that, 3 times that. So
that's always a rude awakening for a lot of people, is just price.
Yeah,
I just kicked out a bid for $300,000 for a guy just to do a resurface. It was 3,000 square feet.
Whew.
Yeah, all rail, all new bladders. I mean, it was a lot. But I doubt I'll ever see the light of day on that one. I didn't expect to, but I wasn't going to. Just because it's big doesn't mean I charge less.
No. It's still labor is labor, materials are materials when it comes down to it. I mean, you're not having to move off the site, but these days it's not like you're sitting there leaving, your tools on site for a week either. You're still packing up either way. So it's just one big job.
Yep.
And it's not like you don't have a waiting list out there either.
Right. We're booked out a year right now.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is permitting.
Oh.
It's a nightmare.
They have not got that straight yet. I mean, I don't think they're going to anytime soon. I don't care where you're located. It's pretty rare to get, it's feast or famine. When you think, okay, it's slowing down out there, the new home builders are going to not take up as much time, so we'll be able to get remodel stuff. That's when the building department lays off the people in the building department, and then you just have less people you're working with. There's never like a sweet spot there.
No, it's unfortunate. It's just struggling with that right now.
I bet. Well, brother, we are running out of time. We have blasted through an hour so quickly. Jason, what's the best way for people to track you down out there, man? If someone's going to track you down, social media, website, where do they find you?
Well, Instagram, probably number one. That's my most followed site. It's Dr. Dex, DRDECKS. You can go to our YouTube channel under the same handle. And my website is also, if you just Google Dr. Dex, you cannot miss me. we will pop up. And drdex.com. That's my webpage. I haven't updated it recently. If you want the most up-to-date, probably going to go to Instagram. But our YouTube channel is really unique. My son actually cuts the videos and edits and uploads everything. We spend a lot of money every month trying to promote that, and it's all free to you. All I ask is that you click subscribe.
That simple. That's simple.
Yeah.
Click subscribe on that one, guys. And that's where you get your masterclass on this stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it. We're going to do this again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. I'm Eric G, and you've been listening to Around the House.
Life is a love song, let's be lovers. We're all over the radio. Take my hand, I know where to go. All over the radio with you.
Hey, it's Eric G from Around the House. Are you planning a decking or siding project this year? If you are, you've got to check out my friends at Millboard. Millboard is a completely different kind of composite decking and cladding that enhances outdoor spaces with enduring distinction. Hand molded from the finest oak, it realistically mimics the natural grain and color of premium hardwood. If you're looking for something that doesn't look like plastic and instead real wood, check out millboard.com. Make sure and check out that interview we did just a few weeks back. That's millboard.com.